Warning: please note what you're about to watch is a history that we all know of and still going. If you don't like this video episode, then go on to a random video one. You have been warned. Okay, we're on U.W.S and let's go in. Winiko, wake up, make some tea if you have to. The head doctor jolted me awake. It was still more pleasant than my awakening a few hours earlier from the first shower hitting the city. We don't have much time, and I'm not gonna be repeating myself. Is that clear? Yes, sir. Sir, yes, sir. I fired off, sitting up straight. I don't know. Doomco, the head doctor, smoked a little. His face, as I thought Army medical was legendary, and now he's gathered all managers for a proper briefing. I had to celebrate from it all. Innovation, really? The war wasn't gonna be frozen for decades since 2014. Wait, had gotten used to the occasion, distant explosions, if anything, over the last several years. The city has been bursting. I saw it charged from the Soviet Israel, porting the important European town, the kind where I would go for my father's international conferences. And now in the earliest hour of February 24th, was a European rival who was being bombed by the Russians. I give an hour, I woke up around 4 from the first explosion. It must have taken us about 10 minutes to get dressed and drive to the hospital. I was head of surgery and she was my assistant, and even if this wasn't a full invasion, explosion in the city meant we soon have our hands full. Next, in a few days, the public service will be down. No heating, no running the water. We must stock up on essential supplies. Even medicines, even books. We had our hands full with COVID, and this will be a million times worse. Shop will soon close, and we'll stop the house calls. So whenever we can buy or order, it needs to be done today. Hear me? He looked at our supply manager. Oh, I don't know the information. He funny how quick he knew his business when it came to numbers. The Russians will consider the hospital a legitimate target, as they did in Mars back in 2040. We need to vacate the upper floors and reinforce the ground floor. Last but not least, word managers. We all looked up. So the war is over. You are my assistants. Organize your team. Make sure everybody knows their roles. Go over rules and then go over them again. Vector seems to have his head completely clear. Small wonder in the Soviet officer and army medical during the war in Angola. When I was dismissed and left the office, I had no idea what to do. Anya was already in the hallway, and she hopped up to me the moment I was out. How was it? What did they say? Not that much, and a whole lot at the same time. What matters was what was I going to do. Give the rest of the world with clearly effective instructions. If we're going to do something well, we have to focus on one task at a time. I decided that we help reinforce the hospital. You should about the upper floor equipment and got defense to share some bags. They went towards I was in the ground floor windows, decided to making the place feel safer. I didn't know how much they helped, but at the end of the day, nobody felt like their hour had been wasted. Still, I wonder if this was the best use of our time. On that first uncertain day, nothing was guaranteed. If only I knew back then how bad it could really get. Does the key really go? Do you have a moment? The spy manager ran his concern. At the moment, no, I shouted back. Wait till I'm done. In fact, I was almost done, but I needed to focus after several hours of pulling bones, fragments from the shattered shores, missing of the stirring would be an embarrassment. The wounded had been coming in since February 24, dozen every hour, and I'd seen more dead in those few days than I had in my 10 years of practice. Concussions, other injuries, missing limbs, torn wounds, the kind that brought you every step of the surgery process. The woman brought in that afternoon had her shoulder and completely crushed it. She was so worn out by the pain, she couldn't even speak, only wheezed feebly. By the time it was evening, the case was our small fixture of the day. We didn't have to save her life, but arm too. Like Anya and her nerves. She was terrible moth, but she handled blood better than most men. Our supply manager was waiting me outside. He was talking to a small boy with a face red and wet with tears. The little guy kept over him like a in grandpa. What is this? Oh, what kind of who's the kid and where are his parents? This is Daniel. He say he's hurting cold. You take a look. I was going to tell. I'll take the boy to the GP and start wasting my time, but just then he drew closer and whispered, his father brought him here. He didn't make it. Wait out in the parking lot. Please, not talk. Everybody else is busy. The guy spoke in short, choppy sentence. He said his name was Daniel. Daniel. He turned 6 last August. His mother was an accountant. His father was in the army, and that day, something small flew into their apartment. It was loud, and then I couldn't hear anything. Me and Dad looked for Mom, but couldn't find her. There was dust everywhere, and red stuff too. I gulped. Next, he told me he and his dad had to run outside because the ceiling started to collapse. A piece of it had hit his eye, and now his side was hurting. It was just a big bruise. Thank heavens, no fracture, no internal bleed. Bad news is you have to sleep on one side for a few days. Good news is I cut myself off. The boy was in no danger, sure, but the only good news I had for Tanya was this could have been much worse. I asked if he had any other relatives on the mainland, anyone he could evacuate to, only in Russia, he said. I constantly just brilliant. It was getting late, and the boy needed a place to sleep. There was room in the basement, but in that lonely catacomb wasn't going to be easy for a scared little kid. Of course, I could just give him my coat, and I had 2 of those brought to a tiny room on the basement level, turned into a new office. Then again, I need to rest too if I was going to have steady hands in the morning. It wasn't too comfortable for an adult, but for someone her size it was. I was proud of me. Spent some time talking to Naya before sleep, and while he wasn't very talkative, I think it made him feel a bit safer. He did the right thing. I wish you could get some proper rest as well. She whispered then. Danielle was already asleep. Yeah, I wish I could. Coming days, many more kids we brought to the hospital. Supply manager L worked for 2 at a time, both keeping the hospital, stuck to it, and entertained. He had quite a few wait with me. I wouldn't know what to do with the kids, and if I did, I had my hands full with all the wounded, and they only kept arriving. By the second week of the war, we ran out of bunks. Wounded, meanwhile, only kept coming. We had to start putting them on the floor on bare mattresses covered with composite bedding. 2022 March was cold, and we feared a breakout of the respiratory infection. COVID was fresh on everyone's mind. At least there was a silver lining. It snowed heavily, and snow could be melted down to water. Usually we had to get water from a pump nearby, but then we risked being caught in the open. Sometimes the city nurse workers brought in tanks of water, but only when it was safe. Our main problem, however, was something else. The Russian forces dismantling Malibu brick by brick. Our wounded told us that the Russians were sailing the entire neighborhood for no good reason. Planes, rockets, artillery, and tanks. They brought it all to my city, and weapons never ceased firing. It was a tough time, but we had held fast and did our jobs. We fought for the people's lives, and we fought tooth and nail, and that's what kept us going. We had a little time for resting, and when I did rest, after everything I had to see and deal with, my head would go to a very dark place, but humans ain't made of iron. As a doctor, I knew that much. Sometimes I had to take breaks, usually in the evenings when the influx of new patients was lower. Tried to spend all of my very limited free time with Anya. Only when the war began did I realize how lucky I was to have her. It was my ray of light in all this mess. Naya often joined us too, or rather, we tried to include him. He was alone in the world like no others was, so Anya and I are best to provide him with our company. Sometimes I wondered who got more out of it, even worse. After all, our little talk helped us all hold on to some fleeting feelings and normalcy. I never considered having children before. I've been aiming for a medical career since childhood, and I wasn't one to compromise on it, but Daniel turned out to be very clever for his years. Talking to him was surprisingly engaging. The boy managed to recover some art and talked to us quite a bit. Sometimes he asked questions that completely blindsided me. When this happened, I was having the time of her life. I wasn't mad. I deserved to be a little bored, and I loved the sound of her laugh too. By now, we noticed that the shelling would increase towards the evening. We tried to take shelter at those times just in case. I convinced a broom closet on the basement level into our new sleeping spot that evening. We gathered there by the candlelight. It was almost cozy. I recalled her student years and reminded me of my own experience as a trainee almost a decade ago. Then I joined in with some stories from his first year of school. Anna had forgotten how stressful those could be. Boom. The broom shook with a deep rumble. Colonel clustering up the window stairs, the ceiling plastered down on us, and I tethered Danya and Aya to the ground, covering them with my body. The candle lighting in the room fell over. One ulcerated dies, Aya dug her nails into my hand, and Danya crawled closer to the wall, intense, expecting further hits. But there was none. A few minutes later, we heard rushed footsteps and someone banged on our door. Dima, Anya, are you alive? I recognized Victor's voice at any time. And so, hello room with my phone flashlight. I looked at Anya and right over. They both unharmed, thank God. On your feet then. Half the building collapsed. We might have people under the rubble. I'll help, Anya said. Stand up, we grabbed efforts. They can't open the door when I heard they yelped. Guys, can I come with you? Now leave me alone. He was looking at me with scared eyes. What I was supposed to do. I looked at Anya. Can you think of something for him to work? But please, see how free he is? Just stay with him for a bit until he calms down. Give him something to do. For a moment I thought Anya would argue, but she accepted her new and not quickly. Fine, but tell Victor this was all your idea. Then she thanked darling. With no more instructions, I rushed towards the lobby, and it was going to be long. It took us until the morning to clear the doors. Exhausted, me and I sat down against the wall in the lobby, watching their being rolled into the white sheets. That night cost us 4 patients, 2 more were missing, including our supply manager. The old Greek helper, perhaps he got buried under the rubble. The wall kept taking people from us. You're lucky to be alive, you know that. I mumbled to the soldier, and we were lucky his uniform indicates his blood type right below his as a breast patch. I could immediately send my nurse for a type A negative. There's a formatted artery. I could tell from the main skin colour that he need at least 2 bags. That morning the medicine brought in several of their wounded. Most of them only needed their wounds dressed, but only and one shoulder was critical. A young fellow they called Hindu. I quickly found out why. Yeah. If I die, I just wake up in a new body, going through pain with all the blood still in it. He was barely worn out by pain and blood loss, but could still tell jokes. I was honestly buffed. If I were him, I'd be screaming my head off. Couldn't. Excellent. Back in. He was holed up good, second floor, so I wasn't aiming. I'm firing a rocket launcher. Sometimes being brought the 3rd floor down on him into grind again. As I finished, expecting his leg, I awkwardly smiled back. Of course, I was glad to hear a soldier was fighting the Russians off, but I had a bigger problem on hand. There was no exit wound on Hindu, no. There was still a bullet stuck inside. Damn it. Timer. Hearing Anna's voice was a relief. I need an assistant. Yeah, good. We've got a surgery coming up. Hindu. This is Dr. She will. That's when I saw that the soldier had passed out. They brought in a woman with injury, heavily bleeding. None of the relatives knew first aid. Rushed to the pulse. It was there, but weak and uneven. I needed to remove that bullet as soon as. Hold on, what woman? Oh God, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I tried to help, but they all cried. I turned out and saw them. A young woman who smoked and with one of the mattresses I could see was a gaze pointing into the cloak of deep crimson and soaked through, barely stopping any bleeding. Doctor, please, my sister, she's got, oh goodness, she has kids back home. I felt Anya grab me by the sleeve, sent me out of the daze. I pointed towards Hindu. This man's in critical condition, someone else has to be. Rena had Kia's was dying more, almost willing to make it as I poured. Eyes hadn't been stuck in my head already, but she couldn't wait, but neither could Hindu. I closed my eyes, took a deep breath. Get the tools you're assisting will be operating. If no one can wait, we'll be operating on both. I looked over both patients. I could help you quicker and let Anna take over while I move on Melia. The hard case. Until then, I would only have to keep her from bleeding out. She cut herself off for all this. She speaks women. Sorry, okay. If you're sure we can do this. I was sure I already had 4 heads, but I didn't. So my hands would have to suffer. She was an extremely competent doctor, but she had never conducted an operation by herself before. But with her talent, some of my skills should have rubbed off on her. Thankfully, the bullet didn't split apart inside the wound. Something I've seen smaller capillaries do a lot. No, this one was in one piece, ugly and deformed. I extracted it bit by bit, sometimes switching over to the window and pulling out a fragment or two, then going back to Hindu. I handled the secondary task, hooking up the IVs, intoxicating antibiotics, and painkillers. She worked on 2 patients at once. When I needed her to take over, she followed every instructions, and when I couldn't provide them, her instincts were superb. And in the end, both me and Hindu were alive. We put the metal we extracted on the same tray, ugly, edgy shell fragment next to the cigar wrapped and blood-drenched 7.62mm bullet. It was grisly, but it was a testament to save lives. It didn't take long for the entire hospital to learn about it. To learn Danya, what we had done there made me a superior of some near education. We even agreed that Danya was a hero as well, not just my psychic. I said, however, it was less soon, and even the directors approached me. We must save who we can without taking risk or overstretching ourselves. As far as everybody else is concerned, you and I just got severely understood. All I could muster was an apologetic nod. Rules are something that works for most people most of the time. Best if you don't talk about this case too much. He gave me a smile, pat on the shoulder before walking away. Maybe when you are 60, then it makes for a fine legend. Of the hospital, a heavy influx of patients made us also the number of producers. Patients from the destroyed wing were moved to the intact part of, resulting in overcrowding. Some operating rooms got damaged to the current auditorium, and then at least the remaining ones were warmer and safer. We were clearly running out of supplies. However, our supply manager used to be responsible, but he was still missing as the de facto right-hand man. I took the matters into my own hands. I went through our paperwork and found cell phones, numbers for pharmacy and warehouse supplying us. The lines were all dead. However, Our only main option was to go out into the sea. That came with a risk of being caught in apron or worse, coming face to face with the Russians. And we had and heard hindsight our stories by now. Anybody who wasn't one of their own, the Russians shot to kill, but we had no other choices. At first, the away team was supposed to be me and 2 colleagues, but at the last moment, I decided to join us. I failed to talk her out of it. On the way out, they approached us. Dima, take this and leave this somewhere invisible. It was a sign that a sealed recipe from us were claiming we were obligated to convince the pharmacy owner after the war was over. It was really a Soviet man down to his love for lingerie meaningless. However, hell, what if neither the pharmacy nor its owner would even survive the war? Still, I promised to leave the receipt as order. The trek to the drugstore took a long time as we moved slowly and carefully at all times. We watched our step, obviously, as by now there were thousands of mines and unexploded shells scattered around the city. The biggest worry this whole time was whether the pharmacy had even survived. Where would we even get more medical if it didn't? Thankfully, it was intact and mercifully had even been looted. We broke the lock and filled our bags to the top, and then our journey back became eventful. I was the first to pick up the noise of the approaching planes. We dashed towards the heavily damaged houses, the right side of the road, hoping Russians wouldn't want to bomb that ruin a second time. The houses on the other side of the road were still occupied with someone lounging, drying on one of the balconies. The players popped out from behind the cloud zone, past us, forcing us to duck. A brief which sound cut through the air, and then the ground shook. The fire started building before us, exploding into the fire and smoke. So I covered her head and screamed, but I couldn't hear it. The explosion took my hearing for a few moments. We hugged us down as a broke bricks and glass showed our shelter. It took us a minute to come up our sense. My ears were ringing and I was seeing double, but I forced myself to my feet. I checked up on the others and found no blood, so I turned to the building across the road. It was a horrible sight. At least half the building had sunk with a large chunk of the blast. Apart from the heat, it assaulted my face. My hearing returned. I was wave screaming while running out of a smoking room. Emergency survivors, a man crying and broken bloody shape of a teenage boy, a young woman sitting in the dirt, her right leg torn off the knee, an older woman scurrying forward, covering her bloody ruined face. Red eyed silent gaps. She was right behind me. Tima, we have to help them. We have to help them. I knew she was right, but I also knew we were carrying the precious medicine needed at the hospital, and if we didn't bring it back, there would be many more victims. The rest of the team were looking at me. Right. I considered our options, then turned to the other 2 surgeons. Take half the bags and go back. Me and Anna will help the wounded and be right behind you. My president cheered up, as far as I could tell. We spent the rest of the day at the ruined house, helping however we could between the 2 of us. We could only help so much, and yet we managed to treat all, stabilize most of the survivors. Take him away, it's over. The nurse covered the body up with forehead and noticed down the time of death. This was the second Saturday since the last shelling. I don't know what was worse, losing people quickly or having wounded that were beyond help. So more than 24 hours in the operating room, treating patients one after another, with 5 from the brink of death couldn't save the 6th one. My hands were shaking from the strain, and my eyes burned as if filled with fine sand. I quit smoking a couple of years ago when me and I started dating, but now I could really use a damn smoke. I decided to take a short break just for pace and get my thoughts in order, but just as I returned to my sleeping spot, a new problem emerged. Danya was nowhere to be found. Usually he stayed in my room. I walked through. Usually he never left him alone for so long. I asked around and found out he had come looking for me some time ago, right after the word out of his mind. Apparently he's asking if anybody has seen me. They told him I was busy. Nobody knew where he went. After that, when Anya learned that Danya was missing, she was out of her mind with worried she couldn't come to join the search as she had patients and attend to, but I promise I'll let her know when I found Danya. But I went through the hospital room by room and still couldn't find the boy. There was only one place left to uncheck the wound rate. I walked the empty, dust corridor halls. My mind considered drifted back to the half-full light place it had been just a month ago. Lost in thought at first. I didn't notice the quiet whipping from one of the rooms. I peeked inside and I saw Daniel. He was in the corner, curled up in the ball. Shoulder I shake him. Hey there, kid. I was worried, you know. Crouched near him. Where did you run off? Daniel looked at me with wet eyes and pointed towards the other end of the room. There, among the pieces of the collapsing wall, I saw a human hand. It led to a half-fish shape hidden in the shadows. So he walked closer and moved some of the pieces and went away, and then some more, then froze. It was, the supply manager. He was staring at me with glazed eyes. He said, "Hey, a quiet voice made me sure. Is that what happened to Mum and Dad? We all received a training on speaking to those who did not survive, but that was for adults. This was just a kid. What I was supposed to tell him." I walked to Diana and took him by the hand. "Come with me, let's find Anna and all together and talk together." I returned to the room and found I took her aside and explained the situation and heavy topic we need to know about. By a moment of hesitation, she agreed to help. It was hard to talk, made a lot less hurt for Anya present, and visibility afterwards. We used everything in our arsenal to help Nan to calm down. It was sweet, spontaneous, but this day, hot tea, and a deck of cards used to several games. By a bit, life seemed to return. And soon he could even smile again, and child physical, indeed flexible. I wish mine was. And shut up. Well, watching the kid laugh at our jokes again. I wasn't the only one who'd been needing a break. Before coming back to the operating room, I stopped by Victor's office. We had to hurry on. The day sighed within a shining and excessive heavy one. The city was surrounded when in the range of everything the ocean could fire at us. There were dozens wounded coming in every hour to tell our stories. Some had been hit inside their homes, some while trying to evacuate. Some went for being in the wrong place at the wrong time. We all worked 3 to 4 hours shift that day. we were still short on hands. Wave patient we operate on we lost 2, and on those who we operate only 3 out of the every 5 survived. One case stood out to me. A young couple fell under fire while trying to evacuate. The girl only got nicked up and recovered well enough. Her boyfriend, however, gave quite a fright, but there was nothing I could do in the end. Not only note down the time of death, the girl wouldn't hear that though. No matter how I had tried to get through to her. An hour later, the girl would still be there, sitting by the bunk, holding on her hand sticking out from under a wet sheet. I don't think I'll ever need any smoke more. That evening, Anya was occupied with how tired we usually were. She wasn't very talkative to be with, but usually we could be comfortable in the sun. Not this time. I could feel it. Damn it, can I ask you something? She lied down on the coat, looking up at me. Anything you want? She looked away from her. Just stay alive, okay? I can't do this without you. At first, we never really talk about our feelings that much, never compare things. I knew Anya felt for me, obviously, and I tried to make it known too, but today's episode put things into perspective. We were so both aware just how much we didn't want to lose each other. I'll do all I can, darling. We're all going to make it, I promise. I gave her a caring hug. Her suddenly shifted a little into an embrace. She was tense at first, but soon it was gone, and her breathing had evened out. She drifted off to sleep, and eventually I joined her. We still had each other, and we were all going to make it. Decision hit the bomb several days into the war, and yet somehow got worse. All the promises had been cleaned out, and the soldiers were getting higher. The city had no heating, no water. Running water, people cooked it over the campfires, and often didn't have time to wait for cover when shifting would begin to call them our future patients. Somehow the local cell phones company continued to provide coverage, but only in the city centre. Walkie-talkies worked a lot better. The military had lent one of their own to Vicar, so he could request help if necessary. As we found out, requests for help could go both ways. We need all you can give us bandages. Besides painkillers, the voice on the other end waved. If you can spare any. I'll exchange glances ahead. Let's see. Took his face into the hands. We could spare anything. Whatever we gave away, we end up lacking. So if we decided to follow through. Would that be enough? Have you medicals? Make it a list. Over. What happened? One of them is dead. The other got wounded, and the other took her. There was a moment of uneasy silence. Soon then as well over. So he put, I will contact you in 10 minutes out. We disarmed all the war's measures except for me. Then he looked at me in the eye. Then I'm going to help those boys. You run the hospital while I'm gone. What? We've already at the edge of collapse. Without victim leadership, all would fall apart even if it was gone that day. And if something happened to Victor out there, I knew he valued honesty, so I told him I'm concerned directly. Listen, our manpower is ruined. The city is no longer exists. Our medicines runs out. The only sensible decision will be to evacuate. Give me an understanding look. But right now, our boys are dying out now. And I used to be a combat officer, so unless you have a better idea. Damn, I marveled him at the moment, but I knew he was exactly where he was needed the most. On some level, I knew he was right. The sun was falling, and we could only do so much while holed up inside, but Figure wasn't the only talented surgeon here. Sure, Anna would be out of her mind with Roy. I wasn't enthusiastic about bullets either, but if a volunteer was needed, it could very well be me. Then again, the Marines already requested medicine. Perhaps that would suffice. Okay. As I went out together, thinking it down, it was obviously because coming down a cliff ago would be a U.W. We asked them someone to pick up the medicine and have some also an up care package, knowing full well we might be dooming our own patients. You kindly would be regarding soon. I suggest you do as well. Because I ain't flying up close anymore. They just bomb you to dust if you don't move over. Professor Jason's sleepiness. He looked tired, but more than that, he looked sorry and ashamed. I think he wished he hadn't talked him out of going, and I think I could understand him. It's worked for a long time. In the end, we may get a bunch of pay for everything, but not now. It was the unsaid part of nodded back. For now, we work as before, but tonight I will start inquiring about evacuation. I was as I walked back home, so when he stopped showing up, I didn't blame him. I mean, we were taking the shots at us the whole time. I was among those who kept my mind connection in the sea alive, but some even colleagues had left. Today, even himself got shot in the arm. 4 weeks into the application, solitary of the earlier days was given way to despair. We just spoke to the lieutenant finds that principal simple targets for Russian artillery. Our hospitality functioned as before in a huge part thanks to Manny's leadership, but God, we were losing many patients nearly hourly. The city was dead, and the citizens were scattering. I knew this would happen, that's why I had to keep a connection alive. I peeled up, and it's a dog-eat dog. He was in pain, but when I reached Painkillers, he waved my hand away. Save it for women and kids. I know you are running out. I see the messages you people were sending. Just then the door into the operating room opened. It was all done here. We've got a situation I expect to be set up in a moment. I walked out. I've gotten used to it. Even a little long only. So much misery can a human witness before it becomes a routine. It was especially hard, and I thought she did a good job hiding it. But in the hallway I wasn't set up upon. I just saw a lone woman with a tear-stained face sitting by the wall, dressed in a bugged winter clothing and holding a shifting bundle of blue clothes in her arms, covering over it as it wheezed in a fizzy voice. Oh no. He was busy with his own cases, told me to take this to you. I whispered it was a girl barely 2 years old, with face pale like a ghost, with pain. Kids that age normally cried like mad, while she only made quite pitiful noises, sometimes was making it hard for her to breathe. I approached and told the mother I would do a checkup, looking up at me with glazed eyes. She whimpered but didn't protest. She told me to me the child name was Katya, and that something found nearby. She kept repeating the last part, just as I thought. There were fragments, wounds, a lot of them. After a few weeks in this hell, I knew exactly what to do. Was that fell nearby, and I could tell that this was a black case. The wounds were too heavily. There was next to no pulse, and our blood reserve had run out of all types. Fuck. I told the woman I'd be with her in minutes, stepped away to consult with Anya. I know there's a little hope. I know Victor would say so. She took a deep breath. But there has to be something we can do. There isn't no hope. There is none, I thought. And we had patients like before. I remember all of mine. And yet, you know the rules. We are running out. I swallowed. We can't afford to waste medicine. To my surprise, she didn't object, didn't even give it me any wondering. I made a mistake by dating you looks. She just said quietly, if we were not going to try, why are we even here? We would try and treat the little girl, knowing that my efforts were doomed from the start. I could do what Victor would do, break news to the mother, tell her this was a basic case, and move on. All that was left to do was administer painkillers, and at the very least I could do is to call and accept the responsibility. No. We took the child to the operating room with Alex. He made room before I could even ask him. Thank you. And I whispered, and then it all went hell. Pulled out the fragment, but there was no undoing the damage, nothing to replace the lost blood with. When the girl heart gave out, we couldn't restart it. I noticed down the time to put it on the chair, nurse sank her face into the palms. Alex sat in silent as well, looking at the floor. Only the sound in the room was the flatline tone. Fuck those murderers. This war. Damia, how did you become a doctor? He asked while I was filling out the patient's card. Didn't even have to think about it. Always liked the idea. I wasn't squeamish, had a good grades in biology, and wanted to do something important, and I knew the doctors made a good money. I was smiling, but the main reason is the job is literally about seeing people. What's not to like? I started with a thoughtful look, trying to see for his age, but I could tell my answer got him thinking. Usually he asks about stuff because it was one of the hospital after affairs involved him, and there was very little hold of his attention. This time it wasn't idle curiosity. I could tell there was something he wanted to discuss, but I didn't want to be blunt about it. Who do you want to be when you grow up? An archaeologist, I think. I love dinosaurs, they are so cool. I chuckled. He got that right. Dinosaurs are so freaking cool. But I think I want to help people like you do. You help closer. Can you show me how you do it? I'll be a doctor too. Huh. The boy looked up to me and he really did, and somehow I never noticed. There was no way I could say no to him. So in that case, I'll make you an intern for a day. The moment I explained to him what an intern was, he was accused I burst enthusiasm. Yeah, that would be cool. Quickly finished up the patient card and luckily I was a lot more patient than your average 6-year-old, and from there I said about teaching him about the doctor traits. We went over the first aid and basics and anatomy, nothing too advanced, and I locked it up with the genuine interest. He was frankly more interested in it than some of the people I used to study medicine with. Once the lecture was over, I decided to withdraw and congratulate young man, you made it in our clinic. Sadly, we are a bit short on the scopes, but I've got something even better for you. I found my old stethoscope, and Solomon was it on him like a medal. Then was overjoyed, and he puffed out just like a little bird, then rushed to give me a grateful hug. I smiled and gave Daniel a pat on the head. It felt obviously something known I may have sparked a kid interest in medical and in medicine. I had completely forgotten how clever he was. I had to talk to him more often. The Marines met me and led me there and eased their position in the cities. And it was so much worse than I thought. There were several dozen rooms of the room were nevertheless on there. Quite everyone was in the basement and apartment blocks where the wounded were lying on the floor, blown off the limbs, dirty old bandages, and lots of spilled green. That basement smelled like an old grave. The unit commander called me in. We are planning to withdraw, but for that we need to wound the Sable. Next destination is Oversaw. Hundreds of officers are already hiding there out. Or to be some medicine as well. But the whole day clearing wounds and pulling out bullets, having a broken shell was like several times more open fire. The very abrupt sound of the thundering across the basement. It took all my resource and not to be paralyzed by how I keep it working. I asked one of the soldiers if they had combat fires to spare. They said that's if there was a spare one around. It was probably how to say, and the civil site stated out loud was on everyone's mind. We'd be ready in 2 hours in case of an emergency retreat to the volunteer centre near the drama theatre. The coordinates will be provided dismissed. They asked me to wait for a bit. I'll take the kid in my car, including that boy of yours. No, yeah, and you two folks will keep our patient stable in the case of the road gets bumpy. Evacuation was raised for a couple of hours. All mail transports was put to work, and the ambulance, the civilization cars. Daniel was also a fan of Ryan separately, but I assumed him to the best of my ability as I picked her to take care of him. Hell, it's so much insanity. I didn't trust myself, but I trust Victor. My ambulance was at the tail of the car we parked. Several measures in the current accident mobile company. The technician operates on the earlier. He was still in pain, but taking it as well as I remembered. We said our farewells to everyone and took off. Journey through the sea was tense. Checkpoint after checkpoint, the Russians, many of them kept out on Gaia. Thankfully, nothing came of it in the end. On the last checkpoint out of the city, Rosine wished us safe travels to, and once we passed, they opened fire. There was a series of distant pops and went through the ambulance, was split across the windshield. Our driver was killed on the spot, and I screamed. They were stopped out. The drivers were in the seat next to the seat, spread up, but got with them was a cell, so we tossed to the side of the road like toy. Right side was completely ruined. On Eula's fine part, I could clearly see a sight of children. My ears shot plastic quickly. There were bullets whizzing in front. Explosions, terrified scream. Our patients and Aya, who was covering her ears. We had to escape fast. Ditch the patient and run. Let's protect the patient. Escape by car. I knew Aya was the only chance she had to give a try, but for that I had to bring her back to her sense. Aya looked at me. I shook her by the shoulders, thankfully. Woke her eyes focused on me. She was terrified, but not in a shocked anymore. We can't stay here. Goes out. I pulled the driver off the seat and Aya herself into the place and pulled the gas pedal. I couldn't see where the cars in our went, but Aya drove out our I was between the building where we were ordered to hit. I stopped it half an hour later. They had the steering wheel and the death grip. I understand why. We didn't know if the Russians were going to chase after us. They didn't. We pre-checked on our patients. None were hit. We left the danger zone quickly enough. I turned my attention to Aya and she was needing some time to shoot, but otherwise unharmed. Our evacuation center failed. And all that was left to do was have a rally point named Africa Frontier Center near the drama theatre. It took us a place that made sense, the Frontier Center, in the original drama theatre. A place to sit down, plastic cups of tea and tiny gaze. Must feel like a world treatment. They rested her feet and not a word I asked the man about cricket and volunteers detected us to our theatre. That's where the measure focused since it could house electoral hundreds and that were thicker decided to he be the most useful. Very few people were outside sitting on the stairs and walls, most of them were smoking, some were trying to catch no connection to pain. Then I saw an opposing figure in a warm rescue jacket walked out of the building with a cup of steaming hot drink. Who do I see? Christian, when he saw us, but when his face dropped without any questions, he understood the whole stroke of what was happening. He shut out. I went, but looked hold of her so quickly and just nodded. He took a large swing at the drink. It always startled me when he did that. Don't you worry, the medicine will make them pay, and we doctors have our own routine. It's good that you came just in time to say goodbye to Danya. I said, but figured quickly resumed us. They was alive and well. He had been picked up by the group of the volunteers who were going to evacuate children. We came looking immediately, making our way through the road and huddled inside. Inside the drum pit, people were everywhere. There were probably only a few was there, but it reminded me of how huge my city was, and so enough I saw about a dozen kids being gathered by some volunteers, and I went to speak with them while I went to look for Danya. His face lit up when he saw me. Dama, he wished to give me a hug, which I gladly returned. Told me you and I were going on a trip, but I thought you would be gone longer. It's good you came. He looked away, and I thought I wouldn't see you again. As it almost came to me that I could have easily joined the rest of the victims on the cruise highway, then nobody would see us again. Indeed, well now I'm here. I smiled and messed up his hair. He killed and swatted my head away, saying he was too old for that. Sure you are, big guy. What do you think about those folks? Do you trust them? They're okay. He nodded sometimes. They got a buzz. Children on it, been letters. He made a wild gesture to demonstrate which children in the bowl letter. It said that in front of the drama theatre too. I had also seen it on some of the cars in our evacuation convoy. The one the Russians had shelled anyway. Said they'll be going now before it's dark. I wish you could go too. Gave me the start. He had nowhere to go. No relevance, no body. Now, would you have stay with the volunteers or become a refugee? Just then I heard someone start calling out names. A young woman with some NGO ID badges was calling the children, checking their names on the list. I didn't take long before Daniel Buck was called. His name was on high up in the alphabet. Me and Daniel looked at each other. I had nowhere to go, and it wasn't my kid or Anya's kid, but damn, if he wasn't a family by now, I could never replace his father, but I couldn't abandon him to become just another refugee kid. I went to speak to frontiers and told them about the bomb convoy and told them they needed a better plan. They didn't spoil anything but snapping the children on a car and hoping it would be enough. They were unsettling and more a little upset, but they couldn't change their plan right before departure. They said they have to risk. But when they started loading the kids up onto their bus, they wasn't with them. We're all gonna make it. He gave me a smile and nudge on the. I looked down and he stood at attention and nodded like a little soldier. His father must have taught him that. Adorable. Brave little Dinah. I have to be brave too. Both were his and Anna's stake. I salute him right back. The frontier bus vanished in the distance, slowly driving around the doors. Me, Aya, and the rest of our former staff got to work helping out with what we could. We worked tirelessly. A few hours later, and I stepped out of the break. It was well earned. Well, I've decided what smoke I brought this team, and usually cook it down while steaming hot. How can you like that? You can't feel the taste when it's that hot. It's tea, you drink it to stay sharp. You want taste? Drink apple juice or fucking burrito. Burrito. I couldn't help laughed because someone so crazy, but also because burrito was a solid brand of soda, an ancient reference if I heard one. With a laugh too, then we heard the planes coming. We looked at each other, wild eye, back inside downstairs. Then a sharp whistle above that deep third ringing pain in my ears, and a wave of hot air hit at us. Then a wave of hot grey ashes. Went back towards the theatre. God, it was looking bad, and even worse, Anya was still inside. There was screaming everywhere. People potted in and out, clouds of dust looking for their loved ones, simply or skipping the carnage. I was among the few running inside. Anya, I called out for her without stopping. The stairway was filled with dirty dust, despite the return on their faces. Don't know how much time I spent inside, but I found myself on the stairs, leaning towards the main hall. There was a pit I had to jump over. There was a hole in the dome, shaped like a half moon. The stage below was covered in heavy turbines. I couldn't breathe. My eyes were watering from the dirt, smoke, and there was body everywhere, wiggling around and moving. Then a trace of anger. Just then, I heard a voice. Wait right there, like this. Be ready. He might squeal quite a bit. Right to her voice, I saw Aya. The jacket was torn and covered in dust, had a fresh mist on her cheek, and her hair was a mess, but she was alive. She was trying to help the blood-covered man lying on the floor. So we joined in. She only glanced at me, and we sighed when we were together. Now that we knew when we were both alive, we had a duty to our patient. Was it? And we at the spirits in the last few weeks. Some people break out seeing half of what she had seen. She was made of iron, but had a touch of empathy and understanding that I often lack. It made her a great doctor and terrific human being, one I could see myself spending the rest of my life with. Once we helped everyone I would her as much. That evening we returned to the volunteer centre nearby. Completely exhausted, I kept looking at Aya and applying her the day event in my head, recalling how I ran around looking for her, and how much I wanted to make sure she was alive. Once we were alone in the room downstairs, I gave her a gentle hug and proposed to Anya. Aside from after I need to muster the courage first. Today was tough. How are you holding up? They said, was tense at first, but soon relaxed. Oh, okay, that's the hard part. When did I get used to all this? So ignore me, just worried about what's come next. She hugged me closer, singing into me for comfort, and suddenly hit in all of fullness how dear to my heart she was, despite all the suffering, warm, cold, and terrible state. I stood by my this whole time. Every moment was brighter because she was there for me. Well, get out of this alive. You hear me? We will. I took a deep breath and let go of Aya and stepped down to one knee. I'd never been so sure about anything in my entire life. I don't know what comes next, but I know one thing. I don't ever want to lose you. Not now, not never. Anya, will you marry me? I suppose me and Anya had been together for years now, but I always sidestepped the question of us to get into serious, and now it was me who wanted it, truly wanted it, and I could tell I made the right call. Oh my God, Dimmer, yes, of course, yes. I felt so light and so it was fulfilled. Back on my feet, I drew Anya into a hug. We had no ring, no ground, and no flowers required, but one day we will. I knew it. Frontiers said I didn't stay unnoticed for too long. Got into the fire, and the very next day after drama theatre hit, and we had to move again. Yeah, West watched the smoking room, thinking, no, this was it. We weren't going to help anybody else. As usual, Figure was the first to call out, always, okay, the storm had to be for a life like this, and he wasn't going to take it an easy way out even now. People are flocking towards us, but the bunkers there built just to 5 nukes. Perhaps they need a doctor there. We didn't ask if anyone wanted to join him. The rest of you, Bale, you are next generation, the future. You lot should leave and save yourself. Part of me thought abandoning him would be a cowardice. Another part of Gudrun agreed. Next day we caught a message on the radio, very audible through the interference. There was going to be a green corridor out of Malibu, an evacuation. I tried to remember our previous attempt. I didn't want a repeat, but this was our last chance. Once he was gone, either way, tuned into a mass grave by the Russians, I gave it some thought and decided to echo Aaron and Nia. In the end, I had at least 2 major reasons to try and leave Malibu. Aya and Dia were the family, and now we weren't going to split it. Leaving Malibu felt strange, Sally and dead, and a constant fear. I almost gotten used to my city's new disfigured face. I almost forgotten life outside even exists. I could tell Anya felt that way too. Only day seems glad to leave the nightmare behind. He was a kid, but also he didn't have the same bond with Malibu we, the adults, had. At the checkpoint, they kept us waiting for hours. They checked our phones, made everything of compromise beforehand, made sure checked our tattoos or telltales bruises of weapons used. The man before us had a Ukraine coat and arm tattooed off shoulders, and the Russians took him away. We never saw him again. And we passed the checkpoint, me and I had tense up, wondering if the Russians were going to shout us again. They didn't. We had passed about 3 dozen checkpoints before we reached the friendly territory, the city of Satapoy City, Yaya. The only then we could really breathe out. The war continued. The future was hazy at best, but we are together and we are alive. Jordan knows how months in 2022 there were many heroes in Malibu, and not all of them carried rivals. One of those heroes was Doma. True to his oath, he put others before himself. A step off the way, he was brave, determined, and resourceful, and he was tired. He never let anybody see it. They never learned his name, nor remembered his face, but there were a dozen, if not hundreds, who owe him their lives. Dima didn't do all he could, he did more. The Ukraine war has begun for 8 years, and in that time the Malibu had already been attacked before. This is the novel, however, focused on the event of the 2020 Russian invasion of Ukraine, and while it's generally considered to have begun around 5 a.m. February 24, 2022, after the referendum put in the declaration of a special military operation in Malibu heard the first volley more than an hour early. The siege of Malibu lasted for 2 months, 3 weeks, and 5 days. The Russians compared the city at the price of 95% of the buildings and the destruction of Azovstal steel plant. During this time, the city saw massive international airways on a similar target and horrendous disaster with the likely death of tolls in the tens of thousands. At the same time, there was a present city, including Ukraine, naval avoid the regiment of acts on individual bravery from the city civilians and the heroic work for the local hospitals. Across the Afghan coast, the city were thrown at the Russian artillery. The Further Center Regional Drama Theatre was bombed, killing 300 to 600 people. Afterwards, the Russians set up major camps for all refugees to go through. Those who failed to further proceed disappeared without a trace. Of those who couldn't escape or chose to stay, from 20,000 to 50,000 citizens were already deported to Russia. Into Russia. June 2022, an outbreak of cholera was reported in the city. The Russian administration of Mariupol lends any problems and has voiced no plans rebuilding the city as of July 2022. The end of the war is not in sight.